Hi, friends. Welcome to CoreLight's Spiritual Weather Report. It is February 1st, 2026. This is Brad, and I'm in South Africa. I'm very happy to be with you. We are in some extraordinary times. We've got quite a bit to share with you today. The energies right now are fierce and beautiful, are they not? Are you experiencing this? The weather, when I say weather, I mean spiritual weather, physical weather, solar weather has been wild lately. Intense solar flares, global unrest, deep personal shifts. So, if you're feeling stretched, you are not alone. The planet is recalibrating at every level. And I wonder if you're riding the waves okay, if you're staying on your surfboards. I know I'm practicing that all day long, every day. So before we get started, I wanted to welcome everybody who's new to Corelight and also welcome to all of our old friends too. Whether you're listening live or in the future, it doesn't matter. We're all in a field of love that exists in the eternal present moment, no matter what linear time you're tuning in from. So for those who are new, every month I tune in on what's happening in the collective consciousness, and I'm always shown a few key themes to talk about on these calls. And today there are four themes. The first theme is cosmic reboot. The second theme is instability, breaking open, breaking through. The third theme is disclosure, becoming galactic. And the fourth and final theme is four currents of consciousness. So, again, for anybody new, I start these sessions by offering a guided meditation, and then I speak about the prevailing energies that are affecting us and about the spiritual principles that are most helpful for us right now. And then we have time for questions and answers at the end, and we always close with a brief guided meditation or a prayer. So if you need to leave before the call ends, you can always listen to the recording later on our free resources page at corelight.org. And we do send out the link to our email list, and it's also posted on YouTube. So just quickly before we start our guided meditation, a couple of little updates for you. Let's see. The first one, South Africa retreats in 2026. They are called Return to Joy, and there are still spaces available for the April retreat and the May retreat. The April one is April 20th through May 3rd. It's for our Brazilian community. And May 14th through 27th is for our English speaking community. I would imagine that would be most of you listening to this call because I'm not going to speak Portuguese today. But I just wanted to say there are spaces available. It's difficult for me to describe these retreats. They are intimate and life-changing and pure magic. They're here at the Blyde River Canyon in South Africa, where I am, which is the third largest canyon in the world, and it's one of the most beautiful and spiritually powerful places on Earth. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that. It's really difficult to describe this, but I just had the experience of a friend coming to visit who'd never been here before. And these friends were saying there's just no way to know how extraordinary this place is, how powerful spiritually it is, or how beautiful it is. It's sort of mind-blowing. So the focus of the retreat is on our personal transformation, but it also includes time with the white lions. We go to visit the white lions. I'm going to talk about them a little bit today. Also the wild animals at the Kruger Park. And then we also go into the local villages to meet the rural African children and adults that we support through our nonprofit here called seedsoflight.org. And there's so much more. So you can check out if you're interested in this, if it resonates with you, you can check them out on our website at corelight.org and just go to the events page and you'll see the retreats there. We have a couple more announcements here. The second one is we have an online enlightenment studies section of our website at corelight.org. And all of our online courses are now available as evergreen, which means that you can start them at any time and you can go at your own pace. They're all audio and video based courses, and they include recordings of Zoom calls with me. And each course is available for 6 months from the day you sign up. The last announcement is that I do plan to offer in-person events in the US later this year. If you'd like me to come to your area, please reach out, let me know what you have in mind, and we can talk about the possibilities. So I look forward to that. Looking forward to seeing some of you in the United States. Without further ado, let us begin our guided meditation for today. I invite you to relax and get comfortable. Sit down or lie down and close your eyes. And take a few long, slow, deep breaths. Just breathing in the light and the life force that surrounds you, and breathing out any tension in the body. Breathing in peace, breathing out stress, breathing in joy, and breathing out worry and shadow. Breathing in the eternal present moment. And breathing out any concerns about the past or the future. Just being right here, right now, with nowhere to go, nothing to do. Just breathing in this beautiful field of love that surrounds us. With each exhale, continue to relax even more deeply than before. Completely letting go. Just being right here, right now. Nothing to do except be, just being. I invite you now to slowly scan your body from head to toes and fingertips, relaxing every muscle in the body. So we begin with the scalp. I always find it helpful to feel and visualize a warm, viscous liquid pouring over the top of my head, like honey. If that doesn't work for you, then you can just ignore that part. But just feel it pouring over your head and relaxing all the muscles that it touches, feeling it pouring over your eyebrows, over your eyes, eye sockets, ears, temples, back of the head. Feel this warm liquid pouring over your whole face and relaxing all the muscles, the jaw, the mouth, the back of the tongue, especially the back of the tongue. We take a moment to focus there, relaxing the back of the tongue. That's a place where if you can relax it, you'll feel an entire region of the body relaxing, like the head, neck, and shoulders. And feel this warm liquid pouring down over your shoulders, over your chest and upper arms, your upper back, all the way down your arms to the fingertips. Just feeling a deep wave of relaxation passing over you. Feel it passing down your torso, relaxing every muscle. Another place to focus on for a moment is the diaphragm. So let's take a couple of long, slow, deep breaths into the diaphragm, breathing in through the top of the head, breathing light down to the diaphragm, filling up your lungs fully, 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 and then releasing and relaxing. And that stretches the diaphragm just a little bit. And one more of those. Breathing light in through the top of the head, filling your lungs up and up and up. Stretching the diaphragm just gently and slightly, and then releasing the air. When we relax the diaphragm area, that also relaxes a whole region of the body, a whole torso. Feel this warmth passing down through your body all the way down the pelvis, genitals, buttocks, down the legs, all the way down to the ankles, feet, and toes, just sweeping you free of any tension being held in the lower body. And then I'll be quiet for a few moments while you do that scan one more time. I invite you to just scan and relax all the muscles, breathing light into any areas where you're holding on to tension. Now I invite you to put your attention on your core. The core, it looks like a luminous tube, like a fluorescent tube that runs down the center of the body right in front of the spine. You can feel and visualize it going from the top of the head all the way down to the perineum at the base of the spine. It might be very, very thin, even the width of a thread, possibly, or it might be as wide as like a fluorescent tube of light. But whatever it is, just feel it there and see it. Is it connected all the way up? Are there places where you want to bring the light in and fill it up? If so, you can consciously do that by just calling the light in. See it and feel it radiating beautiful, bright, white light inside you. This is your core of light, or the core of enlightenment that is within each one of us. And it actually extends above the head and down below the root, base of the spine. So now I invite you to do that. Let's first extend it down below the root and send it all the way down into the earth like a grounding cord, and see it go all the way down and connect with the core of the earth. And draw some earth energy back up into your body through the soles of your feet. So you're exchanging energy with the earth. And now, as you do that, I invite you to extend your core, this tube of light, out the top of your head and all the way out into formless space, and allow it to connect with the source of universal energy, which is your soul energy. And what does that look like for you? It's different for every person. It might look like a spiral galaxy or a star or a group of celestial beings. Whatever it is, this is your source of universal energy. And I invite you to connect with it and draw that energy back down into your body through your crown, top of your head. So you're filling yourself up with beautiful golden white light from the celestial realms. And you're filling yourself up from beneath with very grounding, beautiful earth energy. And allow your body to fill up from both directions with light. Even if you don't feel it, you can visualize it. Doesn't matter if you're feeling it or not. In time, you will if you practice this. I know most people who tune in to these are seasoned spiritual seekers, so I'm sure that you're feeling this. There's a beautiful field of love surrounding us right now. And whether you're tuning in live or in the future, it doesn't matter. The field of love is in the eternal present moment, so it's always with us. So I invite you, whatever linear time you're listening in from, just feel this beautiful field of love that's surrounding us right now. Allow it to permeate your body. As we each build the light, we're building the field. Together, we share this. So just relax into this, let go, and allow yourself to receive. Go yin, go receptive. Just let go. Feel yourself filling up with beautiful light and love. And while you do this, I'm going to say a little prayer and an invocation for our call today. We call on Divine Mother, Father, God, the Self that we all are. We call on all of our highest spiritual guides and teachers, all of the angels and beings who surround us in the highest love and support. We invite you into our sacred space, and we ask that you please guide our conversation today into the highest love and the highest wisdom, and guide us all into our soul's highest purpose so that we can be fulfilled. And while we're here in this space, I'd like to say a special prayer and send a blessing to all in the world who suffer for any reason, especially those who suffer from war, violence, the whole of the natural world, suffer from pollution or illness, adversity of any kind, poverty, hunger. I want to say a special prayer for my friend and colleague, Linda Tucker, who runs the White Lion Trust here in this area. The recent floods really, really damaged the area, and they're in an emergency situation out there. They've had to go on rescue missions for their staff, and they've had lions, well, a couple of lions escaped. They've come back. Fortunately, all is well there, but also vehicles and machinery stuck in deep, deep mud. And so let's send a prayer out and a blessing out that this might all resolve quickly and easily, and that the money will come in for them to rebuild and regroup, care for these sacred white lions who are like ascended masters in lion bodies. And I invite each of you now to silently say a prayer, put any cause or country or person or yourself into the circle, and let's all send love and light and healing energy out to wherever it's needed right now. Okay. Now I invite you to slowly bring your awareness back into the room and into your body, and slowly begin to wiggle your fingers and toes. When you feel ready, open your eyes, stretch, yawn. Yawning is good because it means you're relaxing, letting go. I always love being with you all, even though we don't get to see each other and we're not in the same room. I just love feeling you and being in this field of love with you, and gives me an opportunity to share all that I'm seeing. There's so much going on in the world. And as you know, very intense times we're in. So thank you for joining me and allowing me this opportunity to share. I want to start today with a few quotes. First quote is by Nelson Mandela. He said, "When I left for the gate that would lead me to freedom, I knew that if I didn't leave my bitterness and hatred behind, I would still be in prison." Such a beautiful quote. The next one is, "The universe is an intelligence joined together by love." That is Teilhard de Chardin. The last one, "The truth will set you free, but first it will piss you off." Gloria Steinem. Our first theme for today is cosmic reboot. And I'm sure you are probably, most of you anyway, are feeling what I'm feeling. Such an intense time that we're in. I want to speak about it in different ways. One of the ways is astrologically. There are many reasons for it. My friend and colleague Stephanie Austin and I spoke about it extensively astrologically in the January weather report, and that goes into a lot of detail. So I won't be repeating all that. However, there's just a few things I would like to highlight because they are important and they're up now. So today, February 1st, is a full moon. And if you're listening live, this might be for you. The full moons are always good for shining a light on the shadow and releasing the shadow. And full moons amplify. They amplify whatever is already stirring inside of us, emotions, desires, insights, triggers, whatever it is. So bringing hidden things to the surface so that they can be seen and released. So if you're listening live, you can take advantage of that opportunity today. Also, Stephanie Austin said, and I'm going to read this to you. This was in her recent newsletter. From January 20th to February 6th, 5 of the 10 traditional planets are in Aquarius: Sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars, and Pluto, amplifying the quest to generate a greater sense of kinship and a better future for all. Where do we need to shine our light and dare to be different? Where are we being called to appreciate diversity, play well with others, and create a better world? If you didn't get a chance to listen to the January spiritual weather report that Stephanie and I did, you might want to check that out because she really goes into a lot of depth about all this stuff. It was very, very powerful. The last one I want to talk about here is February 20th. February 20th is when Saturn is conjunct Neptune. And that is when it's exact, but we do feel it all month because those are the bigger planets. So a lot can be said about this. And again, Stephanie did say a lot about it on the January report, but here are some of my main understandings of it, and I wrote them down so I don't forget them. The first one is it's a good time to take steps towards bringing your dreams into form, even if they're baby steps. So there's a power behind taking the next step in manifesting a vision or doing any kind of creative act. Really good time to take advantage of that. The second thing is it's a time of dissolution of old belief systems. Third, it's a collective reality check on what's real versus what's illusion. It's about breakthroughs in spiritual perception, unveiling of deeper truths, and the beginning of new collective ideals. So, if everything feels turned up to its maximum power right now, which it does for me anyway, I'm assuming some of you are feeling that, just remember it's not collapse, it's a recalibration. And we're going to talk about that more today. But it's like a cosmic reboot. As I said, that's the theme. This is the universe upgrading our operating system for a brighter future. So I find that it's really important to remember that bigger picture as we go through these challenging times. Let's talk about the second theme now. The second theme is instability, breaking open, breaking through. So I guess because of the intensity of the times that we're in, the main theme word that came to me is instability. That was like the very first thing that came to me when I meditated on what to talk about this month, instability. And if you're tracking the news, there's no shortage of headlines that are shocking, shattering, bringing up a lot of emotions for people. And this is all over the world, but I think it's especially in the United States, from what I can tell. Forgive me if I'm wrong, if you're somewhere where that's happening for you very strongly as well. I just know from my own friends and family and what I feel and what I read is that it's especially in the US and it's especially around violence and war. It just feels like crazy times. And there's a word that I find myself using all day long throughout the day, and it's surreal. I think a lot of us are really struggling to make sense of what's happening in the world right now. And in many ways, it does feel like the collapse of the old paradigm has officially begun. Um, I mean, people have been talking about this for decades now. And there are all kinds of ways to look at this. But I would say right now we really are in a pivotal moment. So if this is you, if you're feeling shocked and shattered and emotional, I really just want you to know I'm with you. I think we're all in this together. I think my main question for you today, if that's you, is how's your witnessing practice going? If you might be new to Corelight, to the spiritual weather reports, what I mean by witnessing is it's the practice of remembering who we truly are. We're not our emotions. We're pure awareness, pure consciousness, and our thoughts and emotions are passing through us. So that's one of our core practices. It's for the path of awakening. The deeper uh, that we practice witnessing, the more awake we become. And so I guess I would invite you, it's remembering who you truly are. Let's say that. It's really remembering that, and a visual that always helps me is that meditation that we did at the beginning on the core. That core is like a mast of a ship. And if the ship is in stormy seas, you're tied to the mast. You know that you are that energy of the core. You are that pure awareness, pure consciousness, pure beingness. And all of life, the emotions, the thoughts, everything passes through you, the experiences. So I guess I would invite you right now to just call in your witness self, especially if you're in this, if you're struggling, and just breathe. Breathing helps enormously. And as you breathe with the inhale, remind yourself, not these thoughts, not these emotions. And as you exhale, you say, I am pure awareness, pure consciousness. This is just passing through me. This too shall pass. So let's keep coming back to that today because I feel like times are intense enough that these are good reminders for all of us. So I know two of the main things happening in the world, again, all over the world, but especially in the US, that have a lot of people feeling very shocked and shattered are, war. It's this constant, just when you think there couldn't be any more wars, there's the drumbeat again of more war drums beating. And then also I know about the recent shootings of some protesters in Minnesota, and it's just, it's absolutely horrifying. It's hard to describe. I really don't have words for it, I guess. And so many people are talking about it. I don't think I will really want to talk about it today, but just to acknowledge, I think I'm bringing it up just to acknowledge the pain and the horror of all of that. On top of all the insanity of it and the horror and the shock of it, it has also become politicized. And so again, that word surreal comes to mind. We're really talking about humanity here, our own humanity. Not something that's easy to talk about, except to remember our witnessing practice that, this too shall pass, that we want to feel what we need to feel. Witnessing is not about denying emotion. You want to feel the sadness, the pain, the grief, the loss, whatever you need to feel, the anger, feel it fully. And then remember to be in your witness, practice being in your witness while you let it pass through you, and then come back to your joyful nature. Also, as I so often talk on these spiritual weather reports about how important it is to remember that there's a media spin to events like this. And that spin polarizes the two sides of the story. So if you're taking in any of the news around all this stuff, especially the so-called, mainstream or legacy news sources, just remember that the people who take in the news from the other source are being fed a different spin on the same story. So it's polarizing everybody. And I think as spiritual seekers, that's something that we can work on. We can just be aware of this. So it's one set of facts, two spins that divide us. And that is not helpful for the global awakening. That's what we're trying to get past. So that's why I keep bringing this up, just as a reminder. Some helpful practices, which are actually, I would say, included, part of the witnessing practice, would be, I made a list here. One of them is, I call it holding the tension between the two sides of the polarity. Carl Jung used to teach this, the famous Swiss psychologist. It's about not choosing a side. It's about holding tension between a pair of opposites. It's an energetic practice, mental, emotional, energetic. Also, neither believing nor disbelieving. That is another practice. And because so much of what we're being told is not even true, it's spun. This is a really important one for our times. So I definitely invite you to pull that one out of the toolkit and use that whenever it's helpful. Another one is letting the heart have its due. And I just spoke about this. So it's really from that place of the witness, allowing yourself to feel whatever you need to feel, the anger, the sadness, the fear, whatever it is. And then when you feel complete with it, you move back into your heart, back into your love, back into the truth of who you are, which is that you are pure awareness. The third, this is a very practical thing that you can do. I've talked about this a few times as well. There's a news source that I discovered called ground.news, and it shows you how the headlines are being spun on both sides. I find it especially helpful. It helps me to have compassion for both sides because the temptation is if you're only taking in one side, it makes the other side look crazy or worse, evil, or whatever. So I find that to be a very valuable resource. Also, again, just as a reminder, these are all practices. It's really important not to beat ourselves up when we, forget that it's a practice. Just whenever you remember it's a practice, come back to that. Because with the practice, as you know, there are times where we stumble and fall, and then we pick ourselves back up and we get back to the practice. hopefully those intervals between the times of being in the witness and forgetting about the witness get shorter and shorter with time, the more you practice. That witnessing muscle does get stronger with time. Okay, so back to the topic. It's a time of instability, which is very challenging. For me, it's also a feeling, as I said in the theme, of breaking open and breaking through. And so hence I came up with that theme. I wonder if you feel that. I wonder if you can feel what I'm feeling around this, how instability is also about breaking open and breaking through. And honestly, the gift of shock and shattering is that it can do that for us. If we witness the shock and the shattering and we allow it to break us open, then we become vulnerable and we become aware and we can allow whatever's unfolding to happen. So I invite you to try that, practice that. Just allow your heart to break, allow yourself to become vulnerable, remember to witness, and just, see how that goes. I think sometimes we're so afraid of our emotions and we're so afraid to feel. We're taught that it's bad and wrong to cry or get angry. And, that's not the truth. We need to allow those emotions to come through us. I had a shocking and shattering experience a couple of weeks ago that I was debating whether I should tell you about it or not, but I got that yes, I should tell you about it. So I'm going to share a personal experience and I hope it's helpful. A couple of weeks ago, I was chopping carrots in the kitchen for our zebra friends, where I live here at Blythe River Canyon in South Africa. The zebras love carrots, so we we feed them from time to time. And I accidentally cut my thumb very badly. So fortunately, I had some friends who were close by, God bless them, and they drove me to the emergency room. And fortunately, our little town nearby here built a hospital a year ago. Before that, there was no hospital here. You had to drive 2.5 hours to get to a hospital. We're way out in rural South Africa here in Limpopo province. And so we only had to drive a half an hour, but it felt like a very long half hour to me. I had the presence of mind to grab a wad of paper towels and, hold it, pressurize the thumb so the bleeding was not so bad. But to make a bit of a long story short, what happened was when I went into the emergency room, they gave me a general anesthetic. I didn't know they were doing that. It just happened. And like suddenly I was in the light. Like I was having a near-death experience, literally, like you read about in the NDE books, the near-death experience books. If you've ever read any of those, if you haven't read them, I recommend them. There's some really excellent ones out there. I've talked about them before on these calls, but I had my own. I want to tell you a little bit about it because it was a spiritual experience that really affected me profoundly. It reminded me how easy it is to leave the body. When it's time for us to go, we just go. It's actually quite easy. There's nothing to be afraid of. And I think that was kind of the key message for me. It was a reminder of like, oh, yeah, I'm here in the world of light and this is who I am. I'm not that body. But then what happened for me was when I was in the light, I was confused. I was very conscious, because I meditate and I practice these, I've been doing spiritual practice for decades. I had the wherewithal to be, conscious enough to say to myself, this is an NDE, and why am I here? I don't belong here. I belong in the body. I want that body back. That's my thumb, by the way. I haven't shown you. So yeah, so I remember being confused and shocked, thinking this is just a little small wound. I'm not supposed to be leaving the body. How can this be happening? And like I said, I remember thinking, well, I'm in the light all the time. I don't belong here. I need that body back. I have work to do. I'm supposed to be in the body. So I would keep willing myself to go back into the body. And I had those classic experiences of hearing the people talking. I could hear what they were saying in the surgery. I would occasionally like find myself back in the body, then I go back into the light. I remember this was an important detail. I remember seeing the physical world as the world of ones and zeros, like in the Matrix. It wasn't a visual like that. The visual that I got of it was all pixels. I saw the little pixels that make up the particles of energy that are vibrating. And I realized like, oh, okay, this is the reminder that this world is an illusion. This is the temporary world, this physical world. And it was so easy to go into the light. It was like just a no-brainer. But I'm really glad that I came back into the body. I think almost everybody who writes an indie ebook says they wish they could have stayed in the world of light. That was not my experience. I was definitely wanting to come back into the body. But I think here's one of the main messages to share with you is that this experience really gave me a renewed perspective on life and the feeling of gratitude. Oh, when I took my first breath, I felt the air coming in through my nose. And I realized, okay, that's finished. I'm back in the body now. And the feeling of gratitude was so overwhelming that it has stayed with me. And it's more of a practice now. It's always a practice for me, but I think somehow now more so. It's a practice of gratitude for having a body, the gift of having a body, especially being alive on planet Earth at this extraordinary time. We all need to practice gratitude for that, no matter what's happening in our lives. So I guess I still feel like I'm reforming. I want to come back to that idea of reforming. It feels really important. But for now, let's just move on. I feel like I needed to tell you that. I hope that's helpful to you. I know sometimes it can be scary, and I don't mean to scare anybody. You know, thinking of death can just be very, very scary. I hope you can hear what I'm saying, that it's actually very reassuring in a way to know how easy it is, that it's not a big deal. So a few other things that I wanted to highlight on this subject of breaking open and breaking through. I wanted to point out that over the past couple of weeks, we've just experienced some of the biggest and most active solar flares in decades. In fact, the biggest one of all, they're called CMEs, coronal mass ejections. It happened on the day I cut my thumb. Very interestingly, right? Or synchronously, let's say. So these very intense CMEs, they shake the earth, they shake the magnetosphere, they disturb the Schumann resonance. And when this kind of thing happens, it's a really good reminder of just how alive and interconnected this system is, this sun, earth, solar system, how that's one, that's all connected. So yeah, it has led to very, very intense energies the past couple of weeks, and it's obviously contributing to the feelings that a lot of us are having of the shock and the shattering. So I just wanted to point that out if you weren't aware. There were a couple of other thought forms that I wanted to just acknowledge, just to mention, that feel very important to name, so that this is what we do at Corelight, is we name things, and by naming things we make them conscious. We take them out of the world of the unconscious and bring them into consciousness. It's literally shining a light on the shadow. So the two thought forms are, one is that it feels like the world is now being ruled by brute force. And the second one is it feels like the rule of law is gone. So again, I don't want to scare anybody. This is not about fear, but those are thought forms that are out there. And I wonder if you're aware of it. I wonder if you're feeling it too. We could go into that, but I think let's move on. Really, it's just to name them. I just want to name these things and get them out in the open. It's like, when you strike a match in a dark room, the room lights up. So I think by naming them, we're just making them conscious. So let's see. In addition, oh yeah, so in addition to that, we've got very, very volatile financial markets. We've got lots of people who are having accidents and illnesses. I'm one. I know others, people who've been very sick. And then also extreme weather. I mentioned it in the prayer. In my area here at Blighter River Canyon, there was a 2 week period, not just the last 2 weeks, but it ended a little while ago, but it was about a 2 week period of a very, very rare weather anomaly where we had excessive rains that led to extreme floods, and it really, really damaged a lot of areas here. My friend Linda Tucker, who runs the White Lion Trust, is one of those areas. So, like I said, please hold her and the White Lions in your prayers. They can use extra donations at this point. So if you can always donate to them, you can find them on our website. And then also, I'm aware that there's been a massive, massive cold front with snow and ice across huge swath of the US. And, people have been without power. A lot of people were afraid. People were needing to prepare and stock up on food and water and so forth because with freezing temperatures, if your electricity goes out and your gas goes out, you're in trouble. So I don't know where else in the world that's happening, but just I'm very close to people obviously in this area and in the US who are experiencing that. So this all adds to the instability. And again, like I said, it can seem at times like this, it can seem like chaos. And chaos leads to fear. So I wonder how many people are feeling that, if you're feeling the chaos and feeling the fear. One other sidebar around this to mention is I think it's important to ask the question, who benefits from the fear and the chaos? And some of you probably are very aware of who that is. Others may not be, but I like to just call them the forces of separation. The forces of separation are very, very hard at work on our planet right now, trying to maintain power and control. But it's a losing battle for them. The forces of light are sweeping across the planet like a tidal wave, and anyone who stands in their way or anything that stands in their way gets swept away. That's what's really happening. One of the most important things that we can all watch out for is the fear. Fear is the key. Don't buy into the fear. When we buy into the fear, we get stuck in the system of separation. And the fear is being ramped up more than ever before. So just don't go there. It's part of the old story, it's an old narrative. Don't buy into fear. Always practice your witnessing, practice choosing love. And that's the choice, honestly. That is the choice. Are we going to choose fear or love? Whenever we can remember it, choose love, choose love, choose love. Make that your mantra. Choose love. Um, that's part of the witnessing practice, choosing love whenever we can remember to. It's super important while we face challenges like this. And in fact, I would say this is the main practice. The main practice is remembering to choose love over fear. The next thing I want to say is that the truth about all of this instability, destabilization, the violence, the apparent chaos, it's only a very, very small part of what's really going on. The vast majority of humanity wants peace and love. I mean, there's so much more love than hate in the world, and there's so much more peace than violence. It's just that, we don't hear about it in the news, right? This is what I'm trying to get at here with the forces of separation at work. It's like it's just important to remember this, you know? And I think it's important to remember that for this old system to end, it's just got to play itself out to its logical conclusion. And that's what's happening. That's what we're seeing happen in the world right now. As hard as it is, I think it's encouraging, honestly, that to remember that there's a kind of a perfection to this, as painful and challenging as it is. But we're prepared for it. We as spiritual seekers, we have the tools to get through this time. And before we incarnated, we knew what we were getting into. We knew that it was going to be challenging. And as souls, we agreed to come anyway. We're like the intrepid soul warriors we are. We wanted to be here for this and help, birth the new paradigm of the heart. Planet Earth is the greatest show in the cosmos right now. Lots and lots of beings from all the dimensions are here watching. What's going to happen next? So it feels to me like, we're so close to reaching a tipping point, if you want to call it that. It just feels like we're getting so close to some major, major breakthroughs. And I'm going to touch on that later. So I don't want to get ahead of myself. But one of the practical things I wanted to bring up is it's a ray of light. It's a ray of hope that a lot of people sent me emails about. So I read all about it. I wonder how many of you know about the Buddhist monks who are doing this peace walk across the U.S. It's like 2,300 miles. They're going across 10 states. There are 19 Buddhist monks walking from Texas to Washington, D.C. to promote mindfulness and loving kindness across the U.S. They started at the end of October and they're planning to arrive in Washington in the middle of February. And there was a quote I want to read to you from their spiritual leader. It's beautiful. He says, "We walk not in protest, but to remind Americans that peace is not a destination, it is a practice, and that peace resides within each of us." And that's such a great reminder, the part about peace resides within each of us. That's how we work at Corelight. I I always say, peace is an inside job, just like everything else. Everything's an inside job. It's the outer world is all a mirror reflection of what's inside of us. And I think you probably, if you've been around at all, you've heard me talk about that a lot. That's CoreLight's tagline. In fact, our tagline is change the world by changing yourself. So the conflict and the turbulence that is outside of us is also a reflection of the energetic shifting that's taking place within the collective consciousness. So we're literally we're healing these deep inner collective wounds, and it's being outpictured by what we're seeing. So again, like I said, in a way, it's encouraging if you can remember to look at it that way. I think it's a little bit of a reframe, rather than thinking all is lost. The world's coming to an end. Yeah, there's an ending, but there's also a new beginning. But really, our job is to work on developing the inner peace, right? It's about not just developing inner peace, but it's also about clearing any parts of us that would block the inner peace. So that's one of the things that a lot of people don't think about. So I guess I'm just here to remind you of that. It's always good to ask ourselves, where inside of us is there anger? Where inside of us are we judging others and hating others, possibly? Where is there a lack of peace? And then we heal that part of us first, and then it gets reflected. That gets, through our own actions, it becomes a more peaceful world. And it's difficult. That's a difficult journey, the journey of self-inquiry, which, like I said, is what we teach at Corelight. It's looking in the mirror. One of the hardest things that any of us can do, one of the most challenging things, is to look in the mirror and really get honest with ourselves. And, to look at those parts that we'd rather not look at, that we stuffed into the subconscious, that we really don't want to see, but to allow them to come out, to shine a light on them. And remember, so much of what we're talking about is normal human behavior. When we stuff anger, that's just normal. We're taught to do that as children. Don't be angry. So we learn, you stuff it and it becomes like a pressure cooker for a lot of us. I think especially for men. But really it's any unsociable quality that gets stuffed into the unconscious. So if you're feeling brave, I invite you to do some self-inquiry and start looking at more of that stuff. And I know that a lot of you do that as your day-to-day practice. So even if it's a very small part of you, like one of the examples that Leslie used to give, it's in our Marriage of Spirit book. She said, if you think you don't have anger and violence inside of you, try to remember a time when you were a little bit sleep deprived and there was a mosquito buzzing in your ear in the middle of the night. You wake up so angry and you get a magazine and you try to smash the thing. So if that's you, that's just, these can be subtle things that we need to process, that we need to work on. But it's good to get in touch with them and shine the light on them. Okay, I'm about to conclude here with this topic. But before I do, I wanted to mention there's a practice that we do. I mentioned our book, The Marriage of Spirit, which many of you are familiar with, but we have some very, very simple little practices and their journaling practices that really help clear conscious in a profound way. They're life-changing, actually. It's amazing how deceptively simple they are. One of the practices is called polarities. And I just thought I'd give you a little sample of it. So, like, based on what we've been talking about today, I made a list of words, some of the I call them the theme words in the few minutes I've been talking with you now. And then what you do is you write those words down in a list and you find the opposite and you write the opposite in the other column. So like on the left of your page, you'd write the first list and then you'd go through and find the opposites and write them in the right side of the page. So here's the little short, it's like 7 or 8 words here, polarities. Instability. What's the opposite of instability? Stability, of course. What's the opposite of breakdown? What do you get for that? How about breakthrough? Breakdown and breakthrough. Chaos was the next word. What's the opposite of chaos for you? I wrote order. There really is no right and wrong. There are no rules to this. Sometimes the opposite of chaos could be control. I put order. The next word, violence. What's the opposite of violence for you? I wrote healing. The next word is war. What's the opposite of war? I put peace. The next word is fear. What's the opposite of fear for you? There's many opposites. I put love. Might be desire. Fear and desire are opposites, but I put love. The next word, the last word is dissolution. Dissolution. What's the opposite for you of that? I put reformation. It's like the process I was going through with my spiritual experience, my NDE. I talked about reformation, and I realized, like, we dissolve and we reform, and that's the process we're in. To wrap up this theme of breaking open and breaking through, it's about this reformation energy. It's so strongly with us right now. So as the shockwaves continue and as the institutional breakdowns, shall we say, continue, it might feel chaotic, but it's important to remember that deeper truths are being revealed. And this is all a catalyst for the evolution of our consciousness. We're reforming into something new. It's it's humanity 2.0, the new and improved humanity, new and improved Earth. So I invite you to just remember that if you struggle with what's happening, which a lot of people are. So I hope that's helpful. Okay, so the next topic is disclosure, becoming galactic. I wanted to start by telling you a little story that I was remembering. I remember as a little boy, I couldn't have been more than 10. And I remember lying in the grass in the summertime, looking up at the stars. It was a clear, starry night, and my older brother, was with me, and we were looking up at the stars, and I was going to a very deep place. I look back on it and I realized it was a very spiritual experience. And I remember thinking, I was thinking, like, how far out does it really go? What is infinity? What does that mean? Does that really mean that it doesn't end out there? How can that be? How can it not end? What is that like? And where does it go? And so I remember having this spiritual experience around, like, contemplating infinity. And I said something to my brother about it. I said, "Hey, do you ever think about what is infinity and where does it all end?" In true older brother fashion, he says, "No." That was my childhood, was like, don't talk about this stuff. It's like nobody wants to talk about this but you, so just shut up. I wonder if that resonates with any of you. It's not until later on when we really find other like-minded souls that we can talk about these things with that we start exploring, or we have to get very courageous and come out of the closet about our mysticism. So yeah, so anyway, I remembered that story and I was thinking, I always knew. I just always knew that there was life on other planets. I was baffled by why anyone could possibly think that there weren't life on other planets. It just made no sense to me. And I remember being fascinated by the movies and TV shows that were about ETs, Star Trek, Lost in Space, all the old shows that explored what the outer limits. Why am I bringing this subject up today? Why is it important for us? So I think I need to unpack this a little bit. I wonder if you're aware that we are being prepared for what's called disclosure. I know some of you are. I would imagine some of you are not. Whether you are or whether you're not, I think it's important that we talk about it today. The disclosure is that not just that there's extraterrestrial life in the universe, but that they've been visiting us for a very long time. They're right here with us, and it's known to many, many people, but it's been kept a secret. So I've spent a lot of time studying this stuff and researching this stuff, and so I'm happy to finally be able to talk about it. Because coming up soon, I would say in the next 1 to 3 years, we're about to meet our neighbors. My strong, strong, strong intuition, and I've heard many other people say the same thing, that in the next 1 to 3 years, we're going to be experiencing events around the world where it is made very, very clear to everybody that we're not alone in the universe. What that looks like, how that happens, I have no idea. I can just feel that it's coming, and it's already happening. If you're paying attention, you know it's already happening. In fact, there was one thing that happened just a couple of weeks ago, less than a couple of weeks ago. There was a press conference held in Washington, D.C. a couple of weeks ago about a UFO crash retrieval incident in a place called Varginha, Brazil, in 1996. It was not just a craft that was seen, a crashed craft that was seen and taken by the military, seen by civilians and taken by the military, but it also included occupants, in other words, bodies. And so a press conference was just held by a filmmaker. His name is James Fox, and he had a bunch of firsthand witnesses from Brazil talking about what they saw. It was their first time to speak about it. They'd been silenced. If you go to YouTube, you type in James Fox UFO crash Varginha, Brazil, and I'm only halfway through it, but it's pretty amazing. So I thought that that was important, that it's out in the collective in a big way right now. The only other time that I've ever talked about this subject was once on another spiritual weather report. It was July of 2023, and it was also up then. It was at that time, I don't know if you remember, but there were headlines all over the news about pilots seeing what they called tic tacs in the sky. They were clearly UFOs exhibiting all kinds of movements that defied physics, conventional physics, anyway. That same month, I had an ET experience. I attended a retreat with Dr. Stephen Greer at his center in Virginia, and I shared about my ET experience on that call. It was an inner experience, but it was corroborated by him. He saw what I saw on the inner planes. And he produced a picture of the being that I saw. He had seen this being before and gotten a picture of it. So anyway, I just felt like at that point I needed to come out of the closet and talk about this stuff. And now here we are. We're getting much, much closer now to disclosure. If you want to see, there's a movie that James Fox made called The Phenomenon. It was made in 2020. You can get it online. He made a new one in 2022 called Moment of Contact. I have not seen that one yet, but I'd like to. It's about this particular experience that I'm talking about in Brazil. The phenomenon is more general. It talks about a lot of UFO experiences. Anyway, these things are being legitimized. I think this is the first one or one of the main ones that's civilians. Most of the other ones are military witnesses. So anyway, I've been feeling for a while like I've needed to talk more about this because it's a very, very important part of the paradigm shift. And if you tune into these calls much at all, you know that that's what I'm all about. I'm always talking about what Leslie and I called the new paradigm of the heart. It's this paradigm shift that we're in right now, this new paradigm that's birthing, that is, an age. It's a many thousands of year long age, just like we're coming out of the system of separation or the age of separation or the age of patriarchy, whatever you want to call it. So this is part of our evolution as a species. It's our next step in moving beyond that system of separation and into the new paradigm of the heart. I wrote down a list of 6 things I wanted to say about this. Six, maybe of our, we call them maybe our biggest lessons or experiences that are part of our evolution. So I'll read them to you. Number one, unity over division. Realizing that we're one species among many ends petty tribalism. Number two, humility. Understanding we're not the crown of creation, but part of a vast, intelligent ecosystem. Number three, responsibility. Recognizing that our technology and ethics must mature before we join a larger cosmic community, which is our destiny. That's where we're heading towards that. We're becoming a planet of peace very, 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 very slowly. Right now, we're the planet of beer and football and guns. If I were an ET, I wouldn't show my face either. Fourth one, spiritual evolution, awakening to a universe infused with consciousness, not just matter. Number five, transparency and truth. Exposure of long hidden knowledge will force reform in corrupt institutions built on secrecy. Lastly, in short, disclosure will humble, unite, and evolve us if we're wise enough to meet it with open minds instead of fear. So there we are, back to that theme that we're talking about today of fear. Fear is, I would say, the biggest obstacle or the biggest concern as far as disclosure goes, because it's what keeps us locked into the old system of separation. It's like we were talking about earlier. The forces of separation know that. And so fear is used to try to keep us small and limited. But what is fear? Fear is just a frequency. Fear is just like a reflex of a mind that's unprepared to meet the unknown. And the ego equates the unknown with danger and death. So fear clouds our perception. It's the frequency that literally like scrambles our perception. And the antidote to that is understanding. It's about getting curious. It's about being open-minded. It's about opening up to dialogue about all of this. And so when we replace fear with that kind of inquiry, disclosure stops being terrifying and it becomes liberating. It becomes the next chapter of human awakening rather than the end of the world, which is where the fear would come in. So I think part of the message for this month is to be on the lookout for more disclosure happening over the coming months. Be aware of the fear narrative that's definitely going around. It's especially prevalent in the movies that are being made about ETs. I've heard of a few. One just came out a while ago. It's full of fear and nonsense and very scary. There's another one I heard Steven Spielberg's about to come out with one, and that's bound to be intentionally scary. So I think just as long as we all remember, it's important to practice our witnessing, witness the fear, let it go. Remember, that's not who we are, and come back into love, choosing love. Okay, let's wrap up. I want to conclude this section by saying I think that our role for many of us is going to be holding space. We will be holding space for other people who may go into fear, and we're going to need to have compassion for them. We're going to need to, just be aware that this is all part of what you might call a kind of a collective post-disclosure integration. Yeah, I think that's where we're at. That there's going to be a post-disclosure integration, and it's kind of like the global psyche will be recalibrating, and it's going to be about going from what was secret to what's transparent now. It's already happening, and it's just going to get bigger. So yeah, so I'm excited. I'm really excited. We're going to be exploring this subject more in the coming times, and the next topic is very exciting to me. I have a lot to share about some of this. So the next topic is four currents of consciousness. And I'm really excited about this one. A concept came across my path recently that perfectly mirrors what I've been sensing for years about the world's transformation. And I'd like to share more about that with you today. Many, many years ago, Leslie and I met a man named Jim Garrison. And I didn't know this, but a few friends turned me on to a conference he was leading in December. The conference was called the State of the World Forum, Four Intelligences, One Future. And he identified what he calls the four great intelligences that are guiding our planetary evolution. And they are human intelligence, nature's intelligence, artificial intelligence, and cosmic intelligence. In other words, ET intelligence. So that phrasing caught my attention because it really touches what Leslie and I have been exploring for years. And these are all critical aspects of our human evolution, as I've been talking about today, blending into what we've always talked about as the new paradigm of the heart. And when I saw him bringing the four together, I thought, to truly engage even one of those intelligences in its fullness would just be paradigm shattering, paradigm shifting, mind blowing, like off the charts, indescribable. But we're getting all four together. That's what's happening right now. All four of those intelligences are converging now for us at this turn of the era, the great turning. It's impossible to predict what that might look like, but it's definitely the dawn of a new paradigm of consciousness. And so integrating those four currents of consciousness is going to be humanity's next evolutionary leap as a species, right? As planet Earth is moving into this, we're all doing this together. It's why I called the theme of the overall weather report today, the age of integration. So I imagine that I'm going to be talking a lot more about these four currents of consciousness in the coming months. But for today, I thought it might be nice to just share a little about each one as I see it, like a little bit of an overview as I see these things. The first one, as I said, is human intelligence. And as I see that, it's really about the awakening of heart-centered consciousness in each of us. It goes, when we think of intelligence, we think of the brain, but I really feel like the new human, the new way that we will be in the world, in the new paradigm, it's the intelligence is primarily in the heart. Even though the brain is like the world's most extraordinary supercomputer, living from the heart is the foundation of our spiritual awakening, which is where we're going as a species. The species is into that. So that allows us to use the brain to its fullest capacity, living from the heart. So living from the heart, as many of you know, if you've been around Core Light at all, we have a whole list of words that we call ascended balance words, and they're heart states. So they include things like empathy, gratitude, generosity, forgiveness, unconditional love. So many. The list is a long one, but it goes with our practice from the Marriage of Spirit book, our triangles practice. And I remember when I saw that list of words 30 years ago for the first time, I printed a bunch of copies and I put it up all over my house and office and car. And I prayed a lot and told Spirit, that's how I want to live. That's where I want to go with my life. That is me. And that's really been my prayer and my practice for decades now. So I like to think that I'm living mostly in those states. It's a beautiful place to live, and I would imagine many of you are as well. So we're really talking here, when we talk about human intelligence, we're talking about the path of self-discovery, self with a capital S. It's about discovering who we truly are, the self with a capital S, the one divine self, and embodying that in our daily lives. It's what Leslie and I have been teaching for a very long time. If you've ever taken any of our courses or been around, you know that. It's really about awakening to love, experiencing ourselves as love, sharing love, giving love, receiving love, being love. And I think that's the human intelligence that's awakening now. That's where we're going with this new paradigm. The next one is nature's intelligence. So, what to say about that? So, nature's intelligence speaks through animals, forests, oceans, the whole of the natural world. It's the ancient telepathic network that has always been there. It's waiting for us to wake up and start listening again, like we used to long, long ago, like indigenous people still do. I find it ironic when I saw this list. I sort of felt like, it should really be three intelligences because humans are part of the natural world. So, I mean, the fact that we have to separate those two intelligences, that they have to be discussed separately. That's a testament to our age of separation that we've been living in for thousands of years. The truth is we're not separate at all. They should be one category. I co-teach this online course with our friend and colleague Anna Breitenbach called For the Love of Animals. And it's all about this concept. We're not separate from the natural world. We're part of it. We're one with it. And I remember a story. Forgive me, I've shared this before on this call. I don't remember when, but it's an important story. I remember I met a Navajo elder once, and he said, we don't call ourselves Navajo. It's the Spanish who called us Navajo. We call ourselves the Diné, and the Diné means the people. And he said, actually, we call ourselves the Diné Diné. And I said, well, why? I asked him, why would you do that? Why would you call yourselves the people? And he said, because, and he pointed to the trees and he said, the Navajo name for trees, which I can't remember, but these are the tree people, the tree Diné. And the mountains, he pointed to the mountains. The mountains are the mountain Diné, and the river is the river Diné, the river people, the mountain people, speaking to the ancient wisdom that we're all one. We're not separate from the natural world, and this is what we're waking up to. This is the beauty of what's returning is that understanding, that knowledge, that experience, being one with the natural world. As I said, for our course, the For the Love of Animals course, there's a great conversation happening on the earth. It's happening all the time. But are we listening? We're so busy, we don't stop and listen. But that's what we're being called to remember that the intelligence of nature that's inside of us, it is our birthright. We can reclaim it. It's our innate right to be telepathic, to know that we're all one, we're all part of the natural world. I want to talk about telepathy for a moment because, as I said, we all have that capacity innately to be telepathic, and it's becoming so popular now, the topic of telepathy. There's the telepathy tapes, if you've heard of those. Millions and millions of people all over the world listening to that podcast called the telepathy tapes. And then you had the movie, My Octopus Teacher by Craig Foster. It was the most popular movie on Netflix for a very long time. And it won the Oscar for Best Documentary in 2021. And, it's the fact that a nature documentary about an octopus, my octopus teacher, its popularity indicates that people, they want more about that. We want to rediscover our wildness, our primal nature, our connection with nature. If you have not seen that movie yet, I invite you to watch it. It's on Netflix or many sources. My octopus teacher, Craig Foster, who made that movie and stars in it and wrote it and everything, he also made the movie about Anna Breitenbach, the animal communicator. And if you haven't seen that movie, many, many millions of people and their pets watched it. You're in for a treat if you haven't seen it yet. You can go to, if you want to easily find it, you can go to corelight.org and go to our sacred activism page, and you'll see our interspecies communication page there. And I put a link to it on there. Telepathy also links up with extraterrestrial intelligence, interestingly, because that's how the experiencers of ETs talk about it. They say that they had telepathic communication with ETs. Artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence is a mirror, right? It's teaching us how our consciousness replicates itself in new forms of circuitry and code. And there's so much to explore around this. I don't even want to get into it right now. We'll save that for another time. And the last one is cosmic intelligence. And it's what I was just talking about. It's the previous theme of disclosure and becoming galactic. Because, as I said, we're about to meet the neighbors. But cosmic intelligence, I would say, is that vast galactic mind. It's our star family. It's about being reminded that we're not an isolated species, but we're part of a living universe. And just imagine for one moment how that is going to change our reality. So many people I know have always talked about how they know they're from another planet. They feel like they must have been dropped off here by mistake. They've been waiting for the mothership to come back and get them. They can't understand why it's not coming. I wonder if that resonates with any of you. Well, if it does, or if it doesn't, get ready because it's about to be part of our reality. So very, very exciting times. Again, so much to say about this, but I think we'll save it for another time. I want to wrap up this topic by just saying I guess part of the importance of naming these four intelligences and really taking a look at them, engaging with them and examining them and integrating with them is how do they all integrate with each other? I think that's a lot of what we're going to be exploring in the times ahead. And again, there's so much to say about this, but what I would say is that there's one thing that I find extremely fascinating about it. If you've been around Corelight for any length of time, you know that I'm always talking about finding the balance between masculine and feminine or yin and yang. Leslie used to talk about that all the time too. We taught courses on the subject. And to remember that as we move into the new paradigm of the heart, it's all about learning to open the heart permanently. In the system of separation, the heart opens and closes like a valve. It opens with positive stimuli and closes with negative. And where we're going with our spiritual practice is learning how to keep the heart open at all times, a permanently opened heart. That's true unconditional love when we can do that all the time. And so the truth of that practice is that we can only open the heart to the degree that we've balanced masculine and feminine within us. And I know that's a very heady concept. No, I don't know of other people talking about it, but it's been my experience, and what I know is true. And we can talk about it more another time, maybe. But I think to recognize that these two things correlate, the open heart and the balance of masculine and feminine, a very, very important concept. But the way it applies to us here in this conversation today on this topic is that Well, first of all, we all have masculine and feminine within us. No matter what our gender is, it's a critical aspect of the spiritual path to balance the two sides within us. But the thing, as I was saying, the thing that fascinates me is how one of the intelligences is AI. And so AI and tech in general are constructs of the patriarchal era in the left brain, and they're associated with the masculine. And of course, you've got the natural world, which is associated with the feminine. You got Mother Earth, Gaia, named after the ancient Greek goddess. So I think so much of this journey into the new paradigm of the heart is going to be about this integration and balancing masculine and feminine aspects, both within ourselves and in the outer world in the form of these two intelligences. And I think we're coming full circle because I remember talking at the beginning of the call. We're wrapping up here, but at the beginning of the call, we talked about how it's an inside job. The outer world is a mirror of what's inside of us, a mirror of our own unconscious self. As within, so without. As above, so below. And so as we continue to do our inner clearing work and our inner work of balancing masculine and feminine, it's that that's going to support the integration of AI in the tech world with the natural world. That will be a mirror of our emerging unity, our internal unity, our unity with each other. These are reflections of our expanding coherence. So I think that that's an important principle to name, that it's an inside job. As we balance masculine and feminine within, it will naturally mirror, the outer world will naturally mirror that back to us. And this last age of patriarchy has been extraordinarily imbalanced in that way. So that's what we're returning to. We're returning to this balance of masculine and feminine, to the open heart. And I feel like that is what will inform the integration of at least two of those intelligences. I just also need to be clear about something. I'm not talking about transhumanism. If you know what that word means, I'm not going to go into it. But if you're familiar with transhumanism, I'm not talking about putting chips inside of us or, merging AI with our physical body. That is not at all what I'm talking about. So I just just need to be very clear about that in case anybody might be wondering. I think because of all of the imbalances and the shadow around the development of AI and tech in general, and also the destruction of the natural world, the disruption of the natural world, there's an imperative we're facing for us to balance masculine and feminine within us, because that's where it begins. It's not fix the outside and then the inside conforms. It's the other way around. Change the world by changing yourself. We change ourselves first. And so that's the imperative, balancing masculine and feminine within, doing the spiritual clearing work, waking up, basically. And then as we heal and clear and balance, that's going to be reflected back to us by the outer world. It's that the mirror principle is what we call it. We talked about that earlier. So doing our inner work, it's the critical aspect of healing the earth and finding our balance with AI and tech. And I suppose, ETs as well. We'll find out what that's about. Anyway, like I said, this is a huge subject. We will be coming back to it. I know it can be scary. I hope it has not brought up fear for you. If it has, my apologies to you. But I invite you, if it's triggered anything, if it's brought up fear, just remember your witness, to call in the witness right now. Breathe and just invite your witness self in and remember that you're not the fear. You are pure awareness, pure consciousness, and the fear is just passing through. You can let it go. In the months ahead, we will be exploring how those four currents move together. Sometimes they collide, sometimes they're harmonizing. Think of it as tuning into the new weather of consciousness. The wind is picking up, the frequencies are rising. And our job, as always, is to stay centered, stay in the heart, stay in the witness, learn how to navigate the storm of awakening with as much grace as we possibly can, remembering that all these things are a practice. And specifically, practice joy. Practice joy as much as we possibly can. So it's the highest vibration. So whenever possible, be in our joy. That's my invitation to you. Okay, so now, gosh, look at the time. I'm so sorry we're nearing the end of the call, but let's do our questions and sharing now. I want to thank you so much for all the questions and the heartfelt sharing that you send to me. I really appreciate hearing from you. Anybody who takes the time to write to me. I do read everything. I don't have a chance to respond to everybody, but if you'd like to email in questions, you can send them to courses@corelight.org. And as I said, it's not possible for me to answer all the questions, but I do read them all. And so if your question doesn't get answered by me, it will always get answered some other way, as you probably know, through a book or another teacher or a friend or a dream or whatever it is. But the questions, when you ask them, they always get answered. The first question is, what does it feel like to be walking around in a state of forgiveness? And forgiveness is for space, give space, ness. For-give-ness. What does it feel like to be walking around in a state of forgiveness? I'm reminded of the Nelson Mandela quote at the beginning of the call. Uh, I'm going to read it again. I put it here. When I left for the gate that would lead me to freedom, I knew that if I didn't leave my bitterness and hatred behind, I would still be in prison. So I taught a whole course on forgiveness. At least I taught the course. There's a course on our online enlightenment studies page called The New Paradigm of the Heart. And there's a whole session devoted to forgiveness. It's where we're headed. It's what opens us to the new paradigm of the heart. So to answer your question, I really I can only speak from my personal experience, and so I'll try to share how that feels to me. First of all, I equate forgiveness with unconditional love. They go together. They're hand in hand. It's the key practice on the journey to the new paradigm of the heart. Cultivating unconditional love, forgiveness. It's about learning to overcome betrayals, embrace unity. I know that this is a lot easier said than done, but that is our next evolutionary step. So that's really, I would say, the main one for me. It's about being in the heart, being in love, and also being beyond victim consciousness. That's really the key. If you could name one process that the entire world is working on right now, it's that one. Overcoming, transcending victim consciousness. How do we do that? Forgiveness. When we forgive, whether it's forgiving life or spirit or other people or ourselves or the body or whatever it is, we transcend victim consciousness through the forgiveness. So, yeah, when we do that, as I said, easier said than done, but when we do that, we enter the realms of unconditional love, and that's when the heart is permanently open. Can you tell this is one of my favorite subjects to talk about? So the permanently opened heart is another aspect, I would say, of living, walking around in forgiveness is if we experience a betrayal under normal circumstances, the heart shuts down. It's the ego's way of protecting us from getting hurt again, and the heart remains closed towards whatever we feel betrayed us, whether it's a person, life itself, spirit, whatever. But if we keep shutting down the heart, eventually we're going to feel very isolated emotionally, spiritually, and that's what leads to suffering. So keeping the heart closed in what we think is protection, it keeps us locked into the separation. And what is the way out of that? Forgiveness. So permanently opening our heart through forgiveness is another aspect of that, living with that opened heart. Okay, I was going to share a screen with you, and so I'm going to read this to you. This is from the New Paradigm of the Heart course. The definition of forgiveness. The root of the word forgive comes from the Old English gifan, Giefan, which means to give, and the prefix for, which means completely, to give completely. For-Gi-Fan also means to give in marriage, i.e., unity. This suggests that to truly forgive, we need to give ourselves back to unity with spirit and no longer feel separate and or victimized. Forgiveness cannot happen from a position of separation from one of the roles. These are the roles that we talk about in that course: victim, tyrant, rebel, and savior and martyr. So it's, let's see, only by embracing unity. There's a personal sharing that I can offer here. I'm debating whether to do it. I don't want to take too much more time. We're almost at the end. For me, I really went on a many-year journey with this practicing forgiveness when Leslie started losing her memory. So when she started losing her memory, I had to work on overcoming my own feelings of being betrayed by life, feeling betrayed in many ways. And so for many years, my daily practice was about that, was about forgiving life, forgiving spirit, forgiving Leslie, forgiving my own soul, you know, for putting us in that very, very challenging situation. I felt victimized. And so for me, the journey out of victim consciousness w was through forgiveness. And, to me, it feels like it's a continuum. It feels like that path of walking the path of forgiveness it's like a pilgrimage without a final destination. I realize that it's probably a journey that goes on until we leave the body. It strengthens with time, yes, but I still grieve. There's still times when I miss her so much and I grieve. And I remember, have to do my practice of forgiving and remembering that it's all okay, that there are no victims, that there were a lot of opportunities and gifts in this experience, in this journey. And that makes it all okay. It doesn't mean that we don't grieve, doesn't mean that we don't cry and feel sad and we feel the loss and so forth, or the anger or whatever. It's a practice. Like every day of our lives, one step at a time, we're walking that journey of forgiveness. So I guess anytime one feels like a victim, one can practice that. Forgiveness and gratitude as well. Gratitude and forgiveness are the antidote to victim consciousness. So I hope that's helpful. I hope that answers the question. That's my personal experience of what it feels like to walk around in forgiveness. It's a great question. Thank you. The next question. I've been working with Leslie's Burning Karma guided meditation audio. What exactly does burning karma mean? Is it every single imprinted thought, action? That's a lot. Exclamation point. Well, first of all, I want to say it's been a long time since I've listened to Leslie's Burning Karma guided meditation, which is available on our web store if anybody's interested in it. But it's definitely one of her most powerful. So I'm not surprised that you're bringing it up. I listened to it endlessly many, many years ago. It's very, very powerful. To answer your question, I would say karma, the word karma, it means action or deed in Sanskrit. That's the basic translation. But the principle of karma is that for every action, there is a consequence. It's the same. Same principle as in the Bible. As you sow, so shall you reap. You plant a tomato seed, you get a tomato plant. You treat people kindly, you get kindness back. So it's sort of the way I look at karma is it's like the universe is always trying to restore balance. That's one way of looking at it. Our life circumstances, our relationships, our recurring patterning. Those are all like mirrors of our previous choices. Some of them from this lifetime, some from prior soul experiences, if you accept reincarnation. So karma is not a fate that is imposed on us from somewhere else. You could look at it as it's sort of like the physics of consciousness. It's like the universe is always trying to self-correct towards balance and harmony. And so that's karma. And what is burning karma? Burning karma is it's like consciously metabolizing the unfinished energetic residue rather than recycling it again. It's like a very, very high frequency form of digestion. I've heard that it is an ancient practice. Burning karma is an ancient practice. I don't claim to know how the ancients practiced it because I've only ever heard Leslie's guided meditation. But the principle is sort of like, it's like raising the heat within us, which is about raising our awareness about our karma. And then through all kinds of various spiritual practices, we can incinerate the karmic residue by, metaphorically speaking, by raising that temperature within us through those spiritual practices. Like I said, it's been a long time since I listened to Leslie's Burning Karma audio, but I do remember it's one of her most powerful ones that I used. And so I recall that it's it's a meditation practice, it's a visualization practice, and it really, really works at burning off that residue of karma. So if you've never tried it, I invite you to. And Diana, you asked that question. I don't think it's every single imprinted thought or action. As I recall, the meditation allows you to burn up whatever it is you want. If you want to put it all in there, yeah, I think you could, put every single imprinted thought and action in there and see what happens. I know for me, it felt like it was burning everything. I think there's sort of the body has an innate intelligence and the spirit has an innate intelligence and it knows what's ready to be burned off. So I don't know that it's possible to burn it all off, in one meditation. I think certainly, what is needing to be burned off gets burned off through that meditation. So I hope that's helpful. All right, that's all we have time for today, folks. I think let's go ahead now and have our final guided meditation and prayer for the day. Wow, I feel like I've come out of the closet in a way. I've never talked about some of these things, ETs and AI, and I don't talk a lot about the intelligence of nature. So this was fun. This was great fun for me. I hope it was helpful to you. I'd love to hear from you. If you have any sharing or questions, please tell me. I want to know, how this sat with you and if it interests you, because I think it's going to be coming up more and more for humans and Earth. All right, I invite you now to get comfortable, close your eyes, take a few long, slow, deep breaths. Oh, and just release and let go of any mind stuff that got stirred up through our conversation. And just tune in again to this beautiful field of love that surrounds us. Breathing in the field of love, exhaling any stress or tension in the body. Breathing in peace, breathing out any sense of war or violence that might be inside of us, anger. no matter how small. Breathing in joy. Breathing out worry and fear. So we call on Great Spirit, Divine Mother, Father God, the self that we all are, all of the guides, teachers, angels, and the beings who have surrounded us in the highest love and support. We give thanks for this opportunity to be together today, and also that includes everybody who's listening in the future. There's no time and space at that level. So we're deeply grateful for this field of love that we share and the gift of togetherness, the gift of sharing our hearts. We're grateful to be incarnate in these beautiful physical bodies at this most extraordinary time on our beloved planet Earth, the turning of the ages, the awakening of the heart. I'd like to close by reading CORELIGHT'S prayer for peace. This is also on our website under the Sacred Activism tab. We have a prayer circles section. From the place of connectedness in us all, our hearts unite for peace in the world. May all my thoughts, words, and deeds make me an instrument of peace in the world. May all people and all leaders find solutions to benefit everyone equally. May the spirit of compassion and forgiveness move in and through the hearts of all people. May we all direct our actions from love for humanity and the earth. We call in blessings, protection, and courage for all who are working for universal peace, including for whistleblowers, for people in government and in positions of power. We call on the power of grace, and we give thanks, knowing that this is so. We especially pray for all who are affected by terrorism and war and genocide. Peace, shalom, salam. Let's just hold this beautiful space for a moment. Send a blessing from our heart out to the earth, sending our love into the earth, letting divine intelligence direct it to where it needs to go, to all who suffer. So I invite you now to slowly bring your awareness back into the room and into your body. Slowly wiggle your fingers and toes. And when you're ready, slowly open your eyes. And I want to thank you. Thank you all so much for joining me. Thank you for your love and for sharing the field. I want to close by saying, let's all remember that the storms will pass and our light will remain. I invite you to keep your heart steady, breathe in peace, stay on your surfboard, and I'll meet you again on the next Spiritual Weather Report. Thank you. Love you. Bye for now.